6th of June 2025, and tomorrow is Ekadashi. And we're going to continue our reading of Caitanya Caritamrta Adi-lila chapter 5. So we'll continue. Agyan timirandasya gyananjala shalakaya chakshu unmlitam jena tasmai shri gurave namaha gurave gauda chandraya radhikaya tadalaye krishnaya krishna bhaktaya tara bhaktaya namo namaha Shri Caitanya manobhishtam shrapitam jena bhutale swayam rupa kathamayam dadati swavatantikam Priya Sarupe, Dayita Sarupe, Prema Sarupe, Sahajabi Rupe, Nijana Rupe, Prabhueka Rupe, Tatana Rupe, Swavilasa Rupe. Anapita Chirim Chirat, Kuruna Bharatanokalo, Samara Paitam, Unnata Ujjala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam, Hari Purata Sundarata Tikatam Basadapita, Sadahradare Kandare Swaratu Vasachinandanaha. Yam pravajantam anapetyam apetya krityam dvaipaino viraha katara ajuhava putreti tam mayatayo taravo vinidustam sarvabhutam hridimunimanatoshmi bhaktiya vihina aparada lakshay shiptasya karmadi tarangamadye kripamai tvam sharanam prapana Brinde namaste charanarvindam Bhajami radham aravinda netram Smarami radham madhurashmitasyam Vadami radham karuna bharadram Tato mamanastikatina kapi Tavaivasmi najivami tvaivina Iti vignaya radhe tvam naimam charanantikam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nitya-lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again millions and millions of times unto our dearmost Nitya-lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And again I'm offering millions of Dandavat pranams to the lotus feet of our dearmost Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, and all our Rupanuga Guru Varga, and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams to all of you. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhuvevacha patitanam pavnibhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So we're halfway through this enormous purport, 15-page purport of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, explaining basically the Chatuvyuha, its characteristics, the personalities, etc., and principally refuting the aphorisms that Sankaracharya has imposed upon the quadruple expansion to achieve his mission of bringing the Vedic teachings back into India, but still holding the Mayavad conception, the Buddhist conception of Lord Buddha. So he did both of these things simultaneously. It's quite remarkable what he actually did. And when, even today, this Sankaracharya philosophy is very prevalent, this Advaitavad. So even though 4 Sampradayas have manifested since then, Sankaracharya manifested approximately 800 AD, and Ramanuja was 1025 AD. So about 200 years after Ramanuja manifested. So yesterday we reached one verse, and I'm just going to repeat this verse and just say a little bit about it. Very beautiful verse. So basically Prabhupada is refuting the conception that this Chatuvyuha, that they are all one. Sankarshan, Vasudev Sankarshan, Aniruddha and Pradam, they are all one. No, they're all individual personalities, and they're all completely full of that potency of the Lord. They're completely aspects of the Lord.
simultaneously as being completely individual. They're not all one. So Prabhupada is substantiating this through these pages very beautifully. So now we've come to this verse, Karmani anihasya bhavo bhavasyate. Karmani anihasya. This means he works, Krishna works, but he doesn't work. Because it seems very contradictory. Krishna's pastimes, he is that impersonal Brahman, and he also is that personality who enjoys variegated pastimes. He's both. So this has to be reconciled. This is very difficult for conditioned souls to reconcile these two apparent opposites, completely contradictory. So this is why we're being given this verse now. This karmani anihasya, he works, but he doesn't work. Bhavo bhavasyate, he's born, but he's not born. He's unborn. He's the unborn, infallible Lord. But he's born also from Mother Yashoda's womb. And he manifests from Devaki. Durgashraya, Tari Bayat, Pralayanam. This Tari Bayat, he's fear personified. And yet he hides in a fort to protect himself from his enemies. This is again completely contradictory. Fear, personification of fear, why should he have to take shelter in a fort to hide away? So these are all explicit contradictions. That Uddhav is relating to Vidura at the beginning of the third canto. We understand that the third canto is really where the Srimad Bhagavatam begins. The first canto is basically an introduction to all the different personalities, Parikshit Maharaj, and the Pandavas, etc., Dhritarashtra, Vidura, Bhishma, all of these personalities, Queen Kunti, are introduced. Sonika Rishi, Sutta Goswami. This is in the first canto. Second canto is the advent or the manifestation of Shukadev Goswami. He's offering his prayers throughout the second canto and giving the Chatushloki. But the third canto is really where the description of Krishna begins, Varahadev. And a prelude to that is when Vidura, who's wandering around, he's left Hastinapur, being insulted by Duryodhana, and he's come to the bank of the Jamuna, where he's met Uddhav. And Uddhav is weeping in separation from Krishna. Krishna has just left this world. The fratricidal battle of the Yadavas and Brishnis and Bhojas, etc., has taken place. And all of Krishna's millions of family members have died in that battle that Krishna arranged. So Uddhav is filled in a mood of lamenting, and he can't comprehend the nature of the Lord. And he's speaking this verse directly to Vidura, but previously he spoke this same verse directly to the Lord himself. If we read in this fourth chapter of the third canto, it's Uddhav is sitting in front of Krishna. It's described in the commentaries that he's come to the place where Krishna is about to leave this material, his material form, and he's sitting under a peepal tree, and Uddhav finds him then at that time, and Maitreya Rishi also comes at that time and is listening, and Uddhav speaks this to the Lord, and now simultaneously he's speaking it to Vidura, that Krishna is Atmaram, Aptakam. He's fully self-satisfied, yet he lives in an ashram with 16,000 queens. That would seem completely contradictory. Then it's saying, Swatvam rate kidyita dir vidam iha, that intelligent men are bewildered by these contradictions. So these contradictions are being addressed fully by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada in this glorious purport. So I'll just read the translation once more time, but we get the picture where this verse is coming from. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead has nothing to do, he nevertheless acts. Although he is always unborn, he nevertheless takes birth. Although he is time, fearful to everyone, Kala, he flees Mathura in fear of his enemy to take shelter in a fort. Apparently he was fleeing in fear of Jarasandha, who he had defeated already 17 times. So that's what it appears. So it's contradictory. These pastimes seem like bewildering contradictions, even to the most intelligent. So Uddhav, he's speaking this directly to the Lord, and then he's repeating it to Vidura. Had these activities of the Lord not been a reality, yes, it's not something of the external energy. It's not a temporary manifestation here. We're talking about the internal energy, the antaranga shakti of the Lord. Had these activities of the Lord not been a reality, sages would not have been puzzled by them. Therefore, such activities should never be considered imaginary. These are eternal truths, eternal reality. There's a distinction between what is eternal and what is temporary. One is internal, one is external. The external world completely is a temporary, illusory manifestation. It's real, but it's still temporary. So these apparent contradictions we find within ourselves as jivas. We are made of this tatashta, this marginal energy. When we come in contact with Krishna, the eternal energy, our soul will feel uplifted. But when we are forgetful of that and we turn to take shelter, seeking pleasure in the material world, then our soul retreats. And then there's no significant satisfaction or bliss attained. It's called Jad Anand, the bliss of dull pleasure. So it's all applicable to the jiva, what we're saying here. Whenever the Lord desires, his inconceivable energy, Yogamaya, serves him in creating and performing such pastimes. So Yogamaya is that internal, Antaranga Shakti. Mahamaya is the external, Bahiranga Shakti, that manifests. So we're getting a full picture here. We're getting the cosmic manifestation simultaneously as an appreciation of the energies within that. These are all parts of the conclusive truth that Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Balaram, is the embodiment of Guru Tattva. Akhanda Guru Mula Tattva is Nityananda Ram. So all of these aspects are descriptions about his glories. This whole chapter is the glories of Nityananda Balaram. So this is why we're discussing these topics. They're all supportive. All these tattvas and siddhantas are represented in Nityananda Prabhu. Without Nityananda, there's no foundation. Without Guru, there's no foundation. We have to have this foundation. The scriptures known as the Pancharatra Shastras are recognized Vedic scriptures that have been accepted by the great acharyas. Why are they accepted? Because they're apurush. Purush means man. Aparush means not by man. These are not manifested by men with the four defects of life. They're beyond the four defects. Therefore, they're called aparush. Our Vedic literatures are aparushaya. They're manifesting not from men, from beyond this material consciousness. The scriptures are not products of the mode of passion and ignorance, which are the two modes that are always riding in the material world. Learned scholars and brahmanas therefore always refer to them as sattvata samhitas. Sattvata, pure samhitas. The original speaker of these scriptures is Narayan himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is especially mentioned in the Moksha Dharma 3.49.68, which is part of the Shanti Parva of the Mahabharata. So Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, throughout this purport, is pulling from so many different directions, quotes from different shastras, to show us the enormity of the shastras that are available for the sadhak in his journey out of this material, bewildering world. We should understand what are our supports. Our supports are always in Shastra. The sages have manifested the Shastra for our benefit. If we neglect them, that's greatly unfortunate. We're neglecting our supports in this world. Liberated sages like Narad and Vyas, who are free from the 4 defects of conditioned souls, are the propagators of these scriptures. Yes, Aparush. Sri Narada Muni is the original speaker of the Pancharatra Shastra. Srimad Bhagavatam is also considered a Sattvata Samhita. Indeed, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu declared Srimad Bhagavatam Purnam Amalam, that full, pure, spotless truth. Purnam Amalam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless Purana. Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam Prema Pumato Nata. Mata. This is the description by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Matam Idam Tatrataro Naparaha. This is the verse that's described Mahaprabhu. This is his opinion, that this is the Amala Purana, this Bhagavatam. Malicious editors and scholars who attempt to misrepresent the Pancharatra Shastras to refute their regulations are most abominable, because they're hurting the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're hurting the glorious, pure path out of this conditioned state that we're in. In the modern age, such malicious scholars have even commented misleadingly upon the Bhagavad Gita, which was spoken by Krishna to prove that there is no Krishna. Sometimes you might have read versions of Srimad Bhagavatam where it describes the Pandavas as representative of the 5 senses. In other words, they're not personalities. It's not Arjun, Bhim, Sen, Nakul, Sahadev, Yudhisthira, etc. These aren't personalities. These are just the 5 material senses. So it's taking away the personal aspect. It's putting the whole Bhagavad Gita into an impersonal conception. And there are hundreds of these Bhagavad Gitas floating in the marketplace. This has nothing to do with that impersonal conception. Bhagavad Gita is the most personal representation of the Lord's teachings to his dear Sakha, Arjun. It's very personal. It's demonstrating Sambandha Gyan. Without that relationship of Arjun, this Bhagavad Gita would not have manifested. How the Mayavads have misrepresented the Panchatrika Vidi will be shown below. So Prabhupada is on a mission here. He's really unpacking these conceptions of the Chatuvyuha in their personal reality. 1. In commenting on the Vedanta Sutra 2.2.42, Sripad Sankaracharya has claimed that Sankarshan is a jiva, an ordinary living entity, but there is no evidence in any Vedic scripture that devotees of the Lord have ever said that Sankarshan is an ordinary living entity. He is an infallible plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Vishnu category. People will believe anything if they want to twist it around to their own sensual pleasures. The jiva is very clever at trying to squeeze something out of this dull material energy, but he never gets any success at it. But nevertheless, he tries very, very hard. We see the whole world is revolving in this effort to squeeze some pleasure from this temporary, dull material energy. But all these personalities are fully plenary expansions, infallible plenary expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Vishnu category. That means they're fully in that Vishnu category. And he is beyond the creation of material nature. This Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradumna, and Aniruddha are beyond this material world. He is the original source of the living entities. The Upanishads declare, Nityo Nityanam, Chaitanas Chaitananam. He is the supreme living entity among all living entities. Therefore, he is Vibhu Chaitanya, the greatest. He is directly the cause of the cosmic manifestation and the infinitesimal living beings. There's only one supreme controller, and these four manifestations of the Chatavyuha are plenary expansions from that personality. But those four cannot be pushed into being just one, singular. We said this yesterday. They can't be made without characteristics themselves. Vasudeva has characteristics, Sankarshan has characteristics, Pradumna has characteristics, and Aniruddha has his own characteristics. But they're still plenary expansions of God, all of them. Therefore, he is never to be considered an ordinary living being, for that would be against the conclusion of the authorized scriptures. So Prabhupada is making us appreciate the support of Shastra. The living entities are also beyond the limitations of birth and death. We are eternal. The Jiva soul is fully eternal. This is the version of the Vedas and is accepted by those who follow scriptural injunctions and who have actually descended in the disciplic succession. So all of our Guru Varga, they are all explaining these same truths in the same way. Jivara Sarup Hoy, Krishnera Nityadas. We are eternally that servant of the Lord. Eternally. We are eternal beings. We're not temporary. So to say that Sankarshan is a temporary living being completely contradicts Shastra. 2. In answer to Sankaracharya's commentary on Vedanta Sutra 2.2.43, it must be said that the original Vishnu of all the Vishnu categories, which are distributed in several ways, is Mul Sankarshan. We've spoken about Mul Sankarshan before, the root, the origin. There is Mul Sankarshan and Mahasankarshan, manifesting from Mul Sankarshan. Mul Sankarshan, where are we? Vishnu categories. Mul means the original. Sankarshan is also Vishnu, but from him all other Vishnus expand. You see, material consciousness can't wrap its head around this. So we've said earlier in this purport that we should just accept these truths, not debate or argue about them. This is absolutely futile, but simply quietly accept these truths and move forward in our establishing our sambandha with this personality of Krishna through his plenary expansions, this relationship, principally through Guru. This is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 5.46, wherein it is said that just as a flame transferred from another flame acts like the original, so the Vishnus who emanate from Mul Sankarshan are as good as the original Vishnu. If you have a row of candles and you light, and there is an original, there is a Swayam candle, there is an original God, and he's lighting all the other candles, but the other candles have the same potency. They're all Vishnu category. They're not Jiva category. Like the original. So the Vishnus who emanate from Mul Sankarshan are as good as the original Vishnu. One should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead Govinda, who thus expands himself. I said at the very beginning, yesterday, day before, when we started this, that this gives us great faith by reading this commentary. Our faith will be increased by hearing these truths, our Shraddha. In reply to the commentary of Sankaracharya on the 44th aphorism, it may be said that no pure devotees strictly following the principles of the Pancharatra will ever accept the statement that all the expansions of Vishnu are different identities. They have different qualities, like Lord Nrsingadev, Matsya, Kurma, etc. They have different qualities, but they're all plenary expansions of the one Vishnu. Even Sripad Sankaracharya, in his commentary on the 42nd aphorism, has accepted that the personality of Godhead can automatically expand himself variously. He has the ability to expand himself in a variety of manifestations, expansions. Therefore, his commentary on the 42nd aphorism and his commentary on the 44th aphorism are contradictory. This is Sankaracharya. Sankaracharya is contradicting himself. It is a defect of Mayavad commentaries that they make one statement in one place and a contradictory statement in another as a tactic to refute the Bhagavat school, because they can't keep up the potency to refute, because it can't be refuted. There is no possibility of refuting the absolute truth, because it holds itself in that truthful place. Thus, Mayavadi commentators do not even follow regulative principles, because they say one thing and then they say another thing. They contradict themselves in their presentations. Sankaracharya particularly we're talking about here. It should be noted that the Bhagavat school accepts the quadruple forms of Narayan, but that does not mean that it accepts many gods. Now, this point is a big point. Devotees know perfectly well that the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is one without a second, even though he manifests many forms, the same as himself, the same potency, but they're not the one supreme absolute reality. They are never pantheists, that means worshippers of many gods. Worshippers of many gods, for this is against the injunction of the Vedas. Devotees completely believe with strong faith that Narayan is transcendental and has inconceivable proprietorship of various transcendental potencies. Many times the Western scholars and so on, they try to denegate, to put down the faith of the Vaishnava school by saying that we worship many gods. There are 33 million demigods, but those demigods are not of Vishnu Tattva even. What to speak when we come across the Viraja River to all the other manifestations, plenary manifestations from Mul Sankarshan, from Mahasankarshan. They are also of Vishnu category, but we don't worship them separately as the Supreme Lord. We understand there is that Brajendranandan Shyam Sundara, that Swayam Bhagavan is there. These are very essential points to appreciate. We therefore recommend that scholars consult the Laghu Bhavanamrita of Srila Rupa Goswami, where these ideas are explicitly stated. Sripad Sankaracharya has tried to prove that Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradumna, and Aniruddha expand through cause and effect. Cause and effect. He has compared them with earth and earthen pots. That is completely ignorant. However, for there can be no such thing as cause and effect in their expansions. Nayanad yat sat asat param. This is from the first Chatushloki. Aham evasam evagre. That before there was anything, there was this one Supreme Lord, Krishna. He is the original cause of everything. The Korma Purana also confirms Deha Dehi Vibhudeya Yam Neshware Vidyate Kvachit. There is no difference between body and soul in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Cause and effect are material. For example, it is seen that a father's body is the cause of his son's body, but the soul is neither cause nor effect. What a beautiful example. The soul is not the effect of the father's body. The soul is in its own existence, its own identity, its own sovereignty, we can say. It's not manifesting from the Father. The soul is manifesting from the spiritual world. The soul is eternal. The body, we can say, is manifesting, the material body is manifesting from a part of the Father. But the soul within the body, that is eternal, separate from the Father entirely. On the spiritual platform, there are none of the differences we find in cause and effect, since all the forms of the personality of Godhead are spiritually supreme. Spiritually supreme means they're without defect. They are equally controllers of material nature, standing on the fourth dimension, that tulya. They are predominating figures on the transcendental platform. There is no trace of material contamination in their expansions because material laws cannot influence them. There is no such rule as cause and effect outside of the material world. It's only within this material world where there's such an example of cause and effect. The Vishnu Tattvas are not a result of cause and effect. Therefore, the understanding of cause and effect cannot approach the full, transcendental, complete expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Vedic literatures prove this. Am Purnam Adapurnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. So this is beyond material cognition, because it's in the spiritual realm. Material cognition means governed by these defects of the modes of material nature and the defects of man, these four defects, Brahm, Pramad, Vipralipsa, etc., these four defects of man, Karanapatava. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete by itself. Because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. Inconceivable. Achintya. Brihat Aranyaka Upanishad 5.1. It is most apparent that non-devotees violate the rules and regulations of devotional service to equate the whole cosmic manifestation, which is the external feature of Vishnu, with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the controller of Maya, or with his quadruple expansions. His quadruple expansions are not material. Equating Maya with spirit, or Maya with the Lord, is a sign of atheism. Very clear. The cosmic creation, which manifests life in forms from Brahma to the ant, is the external feature of the Supreme Lord. It may seem phenomenal to us from a material perspective, but when we see it in the broader vision, it's infinitesimal, the creation by Lord Brahma of this material world. But the manifestation of the spiritual worlds, these are much more potent because they're filled with potent personalities. The cosmic creation, which manifests life in forms from Brahma to the ant, is the external feature of the Supreme Lord. It compromises 1/4 of the Lord's energy. Yes, this material world only compromises 1/4 of the Lord's energy. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Eknakshena Stito Jagat, the cosmic manifestation of the illusory energy is material nature. This material nature. And everything within material nature is made of matter. It's temporary. Therefore, one should not try to compare the expansions of material nature of the Chatuvyuha, the quadruple expansions of the personality of Godhead. But unfortunately, the Mayavadi school unreasonably attempts to do this. Unreasonably because there's no reason for it. They actually want to bring that spiritual conception into the material world, because they don't want to perform the sacrifice or the process of connecting with the Supreme Lord. So they try to nullify everything and smear the ultimate reality with their own material misconceptions, and therefore make it a completely fallacious philosophy, ultimately. To answer Sankaracharya's commentary on Vedanta Sutra 2.2.45, the substance of the transcendental qualities and their spiritual nature is described in the Laghu Bhavanamrita, Purva 5.208-214, as follows. Some say that transcendence must be void of all qualities, because qualities are manifested only in matter. So many say like that. They think that qualities are Buddhist, particularly. In the Buddhistic philosophy, they say that qualities are of a material nature, but that place without qualities is the nirvanic conclusion, where people want to actually go to. According to them, all qualities are like temporary, flickering mirages. So they become, they seeing the qualities in this material world as being negative, and they can't conceive of these qualities becoming purified in the spiritual conception. So they try to negate all qualities, voidism, sunyavadism, Buddhistic. But this is not acceptable, since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is absolute. His qualities are non-different from him. His form, name, qualities, and everything else pertaining to him are as spiritual as he is. Yes, this understanding of spiritual consciousness. Since the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is a reservoir of all pleasure, all transcendental qualities that expand from him are also reservoirs of pleasure. This is confirmed in the scripture known as the Brahma Tarka, which states that the Supreme Lord Hari is qualified by himself, and therefore Vishnu and his pure devotees and their transcendental qualities cannot be different from their persons. So all these personalities, these personal qualities of Krishna, are spiritual. These are spiritual qualities, not material. And the devotees struggling try to negate the material qualities, and in doing so, try to negate Krishna's spiritual qualities. In the Vishnu Purana, Lord Vishnu is worshipped in the following words: "Let the Supreme Personality of Godhead be merciful towards us. His existence is never infected by material qualities." That's so beautiful. His existence is not touched by the Bahiranga Shakti, the lower energy. Krishna manifests that Mayic Shakti. He's the controller of Maya. Why should he be controlled by any of those material qualities? In the same Vishnu Purana, it is also said that all the qualities attributed to the Supreme Lord, such as knowledge, opulence, beauty, strength, and influence, are known to be non-different from him. Non-different from him. This is also confirmed in the Padma Purana, which explains that whenever the Supreme Lord is described as having no qualities, this should be understood to indicate that he is devoid of material qualities. Devoid of material qualities. He has no material qualities. He has only spiritual qualities. In the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, 1:16-29, it is said, "O Dharma, protector of religious principles, all noble and sublime qualities are eternally manifested in the person of Krishna, and devotees and transcendentalists who aspire to become faithful also desire to possess such transcendental qualities." We are transcendental, but we have associated with the material energy, this nishag, this acquired nature. We consider ourselves material because we haven't reached that stage of liberation from the material conception. This Brahma Bhuta platform is essential for the devotees to reach, to become liberated from this. Someone's asking questions. Maybe Rasamanjari, if she's there, she can answer those questions. But I don't think you're allowed to give contacts over the YouTube or something. Anyway. So this is saying beautifully, "O Dharma, protector of religious principles, all noble and sublime qualities are eternally manifested in the person of Krishna. The devotees and transcendentalists who aspire to become faithful also desire to possess such transcendental qualities." That is our journey. It is therefore to be understood that Lord Sri Krishna, the transcendental form of absolute bliss, is the fountainhead of all pleasurable transcendental qualities, and inconceivable potencies. In this connection, we may recommend reference to Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 26, verses 21, 25, 27, and 28. So Rasamanjari Didi has typed these out and she'll post them on the WhatsApp thread. So you can look at these verses in connection with this topic of the Chatuvyuha and these personalities. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is giving us everything here. It's completely amazing. Sripad Ramanuja Acharya has also refuted the arguments of Sankar in his own commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, which is known as the Sri Bhasya. Sripad Sankaracharya has tried to equate the Pancharatras with the philosophy of the atheist Kapila, and thus he tried to prove that the Pancharatras contradict the Vedic injunctions. The Pancharatras state that the personality of Jiva, called Sankarshan, has emerged from Vasudeva, the supreme cause of all causes, that Pradumna, the mind, has come from Sankarshan, that Aniruddha, the ego, has come from Pradumna. They're not acknowledging the individual Vishnu Tattva of each of these personalities. They're saying one has come from the other. But one cannot say that the living entity takes birth or is... Oh, I missed something. Or that Aniruddha is the ego has come from Pradumna. One cannot say that the living entity Jiva takes birth or is created, for such statement is against the injunction of Shastra, of the Vedas. Jivara Sarupoi Krishnera Nityadas. We are eternally liberated souls. In the Katha Upanishad 2.18, living entities as individual spiritual souls can have neither birth nor death. This is stated in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2 also. All Vedic literatures declares that the living entities are eternal. We are eternal, but this material acquired nature is temporary. Therefore, when it is said that Sankarshan is a jiva, this indicates that he is the predominating deity of the living entities. The predominating deity doesn't mean he is a jiva himself. Prabhupada is saying this just in case some of us in some future time come across these writings of Sankaracharya and become bewildered by them. And we should remember this verse 41, chapter 5, is explaining all these truths beautifully. Remember it for the rest of our lives, where this truth is being explained. This is our reference. Therefore, when it is said that Sankarshan is Jiva, this indicates that he is the predominating deity of the living entities. Similarly, Pradumna is the predominating deity of the mind. Aniruddha is the predominating deity of the ego. The deity is Vishnu. The deity form is Vishnu directly. And this deity aspect is the ego, is the jiva, etc. It has been said that Pradumna, the mind, was produced from Sankarshan. But if Sankarshan were a living entity, this could not be accepted, because a living entity cannot be the cause of the mind. The Vedic injunctions state that everything, including life, mind, and the senses, comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is impossible for the mind to be produced by a living entity, for the Vedas state that everything comes from the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Lord. Everything is manifesting from that origin, that source. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matahar sambram prabhav. Bhagavad Gita is filled with this same conclusion. So if something is not resonating in one place, then we look to other shastras to get a clearer picture. And Prabhupada is giving us all the references that we need to access, to get a clearer light on this. Sankarshan, Pradumna, and Aniruddha have all the potent features of the Absolute Personality of Godhead. Yes, they're all Vishnu Tattva. This is what we already said. According to the revealed scriptures, which contain undeniable facts that no one can refute. Therefore, these members of the quadruple manifestation are never to be considered ordinary living beings. Each of them is a plenary expansion of the absolute Godhead, and thus each is identical with the Supreme Lord in knowledge, opulence, energy, influence, prowess, and potencies. The evidence of the Pancharatras cannot be neglected. Only untrained persons who have not genuinely studied the Pancharatras think that the Pancharatras contradict the Shrutis regarding the birth or beginning of the living entity. There's no beginning for the living entity. In this connection, we must accept the verdict of Srimad Bhagavatam, which says, the absolute personality of Godhead, who is known as Vasudeva and who is very affectionate towards his surrendered devotees, expands himself in quadruple forms who are subordinate to him and at the same time identical with him in all respects. So this line is beautiful. They're subordinate to him because they're manifesting from him, from Vishnu, and at the same time they are identical with him in all respects. When it says in all respects, it means all respects, all qualities. Form, beauty, truth, etc. The Poskara Samhita states the scriptures that recommend that Brahmanas worship the quadruple forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are called agamas, authorized Vedic literatures. In all Vaishnava literature, it is said that worshipping these quadruple forms is as good as worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, who in his different expansions, complete in 6 opulences, can accept offerings from his devotees of the results of their prescribed duties. He has that capacity because they're all Vishnu Tattvas. Worshipping the expansions for pastimes, such as Nrsimha, Ram, Shesha, and Korma, promotes one to the worship of the Sankarshan quadruple. From that position, one is raised to the platform of worshipping Vasudeva, the Supreme Brahman. In the Poskara Samhita, it is said, if one fully worships according to the regulative principles, one can attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. It is to be accepted that Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha are as good as Lord Vasudeva. They're all Vishnu. For they all have inconceivable power and can accept transcendental forms like Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, are never born, but they can manifest themselves in various incarnations before the eyes of pure devotees. This reminds me of the Kaya Vyuha manifesting from Sri Radhika. Sri Radhika manifests millions, billions of gopis from her form. She is that Shakti Tattva personified, Sri Radhika, Swarupini. She's that Swarup Shakti. And she's manifesting billions of forms with the same vital ingredient of just hungry to satisfy Krishna's pleasure, Krishna's calm, it's described. All the gopis think constantly, how can we satisfy Krishna's calm? And this conception, this hunger, this enthusiasm is all manifested from Sri Radha herself. So that same thought is within all the gopis, but all the gopis are completely variegated. They're in their own personal, beautiful qualities that individually will attract Krishna to different rasic pastimes with them. And they all have rasic pastimes with Krishna, individually. So we can see the same parallel there. Perhaps it's easier to understand from this point of view, because there Krishna's pastimes are going on, and we see in the pastimes the variety and the qualities within each of the gopis. They're not all one, they all completely individual, all of them. It's described in that beautiful 29th chapter of the 10th canto, when they all run to the forest at night when they hear Krishna's flute. They all run individually. It's not they run as a group. It's not this Advaitavad mood. It's all very individual. they all run this pranaya git. They run separately. And then they meet Krishna, then they become like a group when they meet Krishna. But still they respond individually. This individual nature is very powerful. And this is what Krishna wants to taste and reciprocate with. So this can't be annihilated and dissolved into this nihilistic shunyavad mentality of all oneness, Advaitavad. This is Sankaracharya's ultimate message. Everything is one, Mayavad. It is to be accepted that Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha are as good as Lord Vasudeva, for they all have inconceivable power and can attract transcendental relevance. They can manifest themselves in various incarnations before the eyes of pure devotees. This is the conclusion of Vedic literatures, that the Lord can manifest himself before his devotees by his inconceivable power is not against the teaching of the Pancharatras. Since Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha are respectively the predominating deities of all living entities, the total mind and the total ego, the designation of Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha as jiva, mind, and ego are never contradictory to the statements of the scriptures. So we say these designations, jiva, mind, and ego, but they are under the guidance of the deity of these personalities. This Sankarshan, the deity of Sankarshan, the deity of Pradyumna, the deity of Aniruddha. That means the Vishnu aspect of these personalities. These terms identify these deities just as the terms sky and light sometimes identify the absolute Brahman. So we use these terms, sky and light, to reference the absolute Brahman effulgence. The scriptures completely deny the birth or production of the living entity. Wonderful. We are irrevocably eternal beings. We have never been created. We will never be annihilated. We can annihilate our individuality by an attempt to merge into the Brahmajyoti. But I described the other day, even in Rupa Goswami's Laghu Bhagavatamrita, he's describing that if we try to merge into the Brahmajyoti, still that infinitesimal spark of light is going to be enhancing Krishna's Brahmajyoti. So there's going to be some illumination coming from the jiva, the jivatma, the eternal soul, which is still in service to the Lord because it can't avoid the service. Jivara Saruphoy, Krishnera Nityadas. We're always eternally a servant of the Lord. These are very wonderful truths to deeply appreciate, to catch hold of. The field of material nature is the arena of the activities of fruitive actors. And since the material field is externally related with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he made it, the Mayic energy, it's coming from him, is eternally related with the Supreme Personality of God, it is also eternal in the sense that it is constantly covering the jivas. Even when the jiva goes into yoga nidra, that external energy is still present and will again manifest its influence at the proper time. So it's never annihilated. It's not vanquished. It's always there, that Mayic, lower energy. In every samhita, the jiva, living entity, has been accepted as eternal. And in the Pancharatras, the birth of the jiva is completely denied. Anything that is produced must also be annihilated. Appreciate that. Anything that is born has to die. But we are not, the soul is never born or die, or doesn't die. Hantariam Adir Abela. That's one person, hold on. Anything that is produced must also be annihilated. Therefore, if we accept the birth of a living entity, we have to accept his annihilation. But since the Vedic literatures say that the living entities are eternal, one should not think the living being to be produced at a certain time. In the beginning of the Parama Samhita, it is definitely stated that the face of material nature is constantly changeable. Therefore, beginning, annihilation, and all such terms are applicable only in the material nature. It's only the material nature. We are not material, we're spiritual. But we've forgotten. Considering all these points, one should understand that Sankaracharya's statement that Sankarshan is born as a jiva is completely against the Vedic statements. His assertions are completely refuted by the above arguments. In this connection, the commentary of Sridhar Swami on Srimad Bhagavatam 3.1.34 is very helpful. For a detailed refutation of Sankaracharya's arguments attempting to prove Sankarshan an ordinary living being, one may refer to Srimad Sudan Acharya's commentary on the Sri Bhasya, which is known as Shruta Prakashika. So all the references are there for those curious individuals who want to dive further. The original quadruple forms, Krishna, Baladev, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, expand into another quadruple, which is present in the Vaikuntha planets of the spiritual sky. So we have the Mul Sankarshan and then the Mahasankarshan. Therefore, the quadruple forms in the spiritual sky are the second manifestations of the original quadruple in Dwarka, Mathura, and Krishnaloka, as explained above. Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha are all changeless, transcendental plenary expansions of the Supreme Lord who have no relationship with the material modes, no relation with the material modes. The Sankarshan form in the second quadruple is not only a representation of Balaram, but also the original cause of the causal ocean, where Karanadakshay Vishnu reclines, where Karanadakshay Vishnu lies asleep, breathing out the seeds of innumerable universes. In the spiritual sky, there is a spiritual creative energy, technically called Shuddha Sattva, which is a pure spiritual energy that sustains all the Vaikuntha planets with its full opulences of knowledge, wealth, prowess, etc. All these actions of Shuddha Sattva display the potencies of Mahasankarshan. So it's Mahasankarshan represented in the Vaikunthas, and it's Mul Sankarshan represented in Dwarka, Mathura, and Krishnaloka, these two quadruple expansions manifesting. I haven't read anywhere such an in-depth description of these quadruple expansions. And as this is the topic of Srila Krishna's Kaviraj, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is very kindly giving us all this understanding of the nature of the quadruple expansions by showing his refutation of Sankaracharya's attempt to minimize these quadruple expansions to simply material aspects, to not acknowledge their Vishnu potencies, their Vishnu tattvas, try to put them into the material realm. All these actions of Shuddha Sattva display the potency of Mahasankarshan, who is the ultimate reservoir of all individual living entities who are suffering in the material world. When the cosmic creation is annihilated, the living entities who are indestructible by nature rest in the body of Mahasankarshan. Sankarshan is therefore sometimes called the total jiva. As spiritual sparks, the living entities have the tendency to be inactive in the association of the material energy, just as sparks of a fire have their tendency to be extinguished as soon as they leave the fire. The spiritual nature of the living being can be rekindled, however, in association with the Supreme Being or the Supreme Fire, when that extinguished spark comes back again into the association of spiritual energy, then he can be rekindled. It's described that those jivas that do merge into the Brahmajyoti, at some point, they're not there eternally, because at some point, some great sage, Narada Muni, Parvat Muni, etc., may come through the celestial airwaves, and the dust from their lotus feet can reignite and rekindle the desire to serve, the desire to love will manifest, and again they will come into this material world and have another opportunity to actually serve the Lord rather than serve themselves in a form of shantaras, neutrality, which is the annihilation of it's the Buddhist philosophy, that Advaita philosophy, that gets them into that Brahmajyoti condition. The spiritual nature of the living being can be rekindled, however, in association with the Supreme Being, because the living being can appear either in matter or in spirit. The jiva is called the marginal potency. So we are spirit and we're appearing in a material environment, but we never lose our spiritual nature. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives the beautiful explanation when he's describing the nature of dharma. He gives the example of ice. What is the swabhav? What is the nature of ice? It's water, it's liquid. That's its essential nature, is liquidity. And yet, when it comes in contact with a cold environment, it changes its nature. It apparently seems to change its nature. It's called the acquired nature, nishag. It seems to change its nature. And its nature becomes very hard and not like liquid. But if a warm current comes and melts that ice back to its original swabhav, swa means own, bhav is nature, comes back to its original nature, then again it will be in its own constitution. So we are the same as that. We have become, this acquired nature has taken over, and we've become so long contaminated. Raman Konya Bhagavan Jiva, we've been going round and around in these Brahmans for koti, millions and millions of lifetimes, until we come in contact with a spiritual energy which is going to bring us back, wake us up to our pure spiritual nature. Otherwise we will just stay dormant. I'll read that last sentence again because it's really good. Because the living being can appear either in matter or in spirit. Yes, there are living beings who are appearing in spirit. Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in the 16th chapter, 2 types of jivas are manifested initially. One to serve Rajendranandan Shyam Sundar in Goloka Vrindavan, and the other to serve the Lord of Vaikuntha, Lord Narayan. So these 2 jivas are in the spiritual realm, immediately manifest. And the third type of jiva, the Tatastha jiva, he manifests from this Brahmajyoti region. That's where he's coming from. And from there he comes into the body of Karanadakshay Vishnu, and then the glance, he's carried in the glance into the Udara Shakti, or the womb of the Prakriti, material nature. And that's where his sojourn in this material world begin. Sankarshan is the origin of Karana Vishnu, who is the original form who creates the universes. And that Sankarshan is but a plenary expansion of Sri Nityananda Ram. So this was the whole purpose of this purport, was to give glorious statements glorifying Lord Nityananda Balaram. All of this is in his glorification, to show who is Sankarshan. He is that person from whom all the worlds are manifesting. And it's a very, very detailed, beautiful explanation by Srila Prabhupada. So now we've finished this commentary and purport, and on Monday we'll continue our glorification from verse 42. And we should have a much better understanding of all the other subject matters that are going to be brought up in connection with Nityananda now. From hearing all these truths in a very compact, profound, dense way from Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, it will educate us so that the other truths will be more easily assimilated in the coming verses. So I hope that you all have many questions. I hope that many of you think that you don't understand this. That's good, because then we might have the desire to comprehend it a little bit more and to read it and study it a little bit more, to hear more carefully and diligently, to practice more carefully. By practicing in a mode of goodness way, the mode of passion and ignorance will slip away and be purified. And then in that mode of goodness, that sattva gun state of consciousness, that is a place where spiritual truths can manifest much more significantly, much more easily. So Sri Caitanya Caritamrta Ki Jai, Nityananda Ram Ki Jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Go Premanandi. Thank you so much for your patient listening. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gauda Hari Bol, Nitai Gauda Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gauda Hari Bol. Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhavevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. All glories to Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, all glories to my Gurudev, Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj, all glories to all our Guru Varga, all glories to Sri Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami. Hare Krishna.